You finish the day exhausted. Your inbox is cleared. 3 meetings survived. That report you've been putting off? Done. And somehow, lying there at night, you feel like you did nothing. Not nothing in the literal sense. You were productive. You moved fast. You got things done. But there's this weight in your chest that won't go away. This quiet certainty that despite all the motion, you didn't move an inch toward anything real. I've been thinking about why that happens, why you can work yourself to the bone and still feel like you're standing still, why a calendar full of commitments can coexist with the creeping suspicion that you're wasting your entire life. And I think it comes down to this. Most of us have confused being busy with moving forward. We think if we're doing something, anything, we're making progress. That action equals direction. That as long as we're in motion, we're going somewhere meaningful. But motion without intention is just spinning. You ever watch someone on a treadmill? They're moving, their heart rate is up, they're sweating. Objectively, they're expending energy.
But they're not going anywhere. That's what unexamined busyness feels like. You're working, you're active, you're doing things every single day, but when you zoom out, when you ask yourself what all this activity is building toward, the answer is unclear. And that lack of clarity creates this hollow feeling, this sense that you're spending your life on things that don't actually matter to you. Here's the thing, though. The tasks themselves aren't the problem. Answering emails isn't inherently meaningless. Meetings aren't automatically a waste. Even administrative work has its place. The problem is when your entire life becomes a string of these things, when you're so busy maintaining, responding, and keeping up that there's no room left for anything that connects to what you actually care about. When was the last time you did something because it mattered to you? Not because it was due, not because someone expected it, not because it kept things running smoothly, but because it aligned with something deeper, something you'd defend if someone questioned why you were spending time on it. For most people, it's been a while. Not because they don't care about anything, but because caring requires space, and busyness eliminates space. When every hour is spoken for, when your to-do list regenerates faster than you can clear it, there's no room to ask, is this what I want to be doing? And I think that's not accidental. I think a lot of us stay busy specifically to avoid that question. Because that question is dangerous. If you stop and actually ask yourself, is this what I want my life to be about? You might not like the answer. You might realize the career you're building doesn't excite you, that the goals you're chasing were handed to you, not chosen by you, that you've been running someone else's race for so long you forgot you could step off the track. So instead of risking that realization, you stay in motion. You accept another project. You schedule another commitment. You fill tomorrow before today even ends. And you tell yourself, once things settle down, I'll figure out what I really want. But things never settle down because you won't let them. Every time space appears, you fill it. Every gap in your schedule feels like an opportunity you're wasting. So you pack it with something. Anything. Because empty time is confronting. It forces you to sit with yourself, to feel the absence of direction, to notice that you don't actually know what you're building toward. And noticing that is uncomfortable. So you avoid it, not with Netflix or scrolling, though those help, but with productivity, with legitimate-sounding work that keeps you busy enough to silence the question. And here's what makes this particularly insidious. It looks responsible. Nobody questions you for being busy. Nobody tells you to slow down when you're getting things done. Society rewards output, not introspection. So you get positive reinforcement for the very thing that's making you feel empty. Your boss appreciates how much you're handling. Your friends admire your work ethic. Your family sees you as dependable. And all of that makes it harder to admit, I'm not okay with this. Because from the outside, you're doing great. You're successful, you're managing it all. But inside, you're watching your life pass in a blur of tasks that don't add up to anything coherent. Days bleed into weeks, weeks collapse into months, and you can't point to a single thing you did that felt like it mattered. Not mattered in the grand scheme, just mattered to you. That's the feeling you're trying to name when you say you feel like you're wasting your life. It's not about productivity. You're productive. It's about purpose, or the lack of it. You're spending your finite time, your actual life, on an endless stream of things that don't connect to any larger vision of what you want your existence to be about. And your mind knows. It knows the difference between doing things that align with your values and doing things that just fill time. It knows when you're building something real versus when you're just treading water. And when those two things don't match, when your days don't reflect what you care about, it sends you a signal. That hollow feeling, that quiet dread, that sense that you're running out of time even though you're filling every minute. Most people try to fix that feeling with more productivity. They think, maybe if I'm more efficient, if I can get more done in less time, I'll finally create space for what matters. But efficiency doesn't solve this, because the problem isn't that you're not doing enough, it's that you're not doing the right things, and you can't optimize your way out of misalignment.
Here's what I think people get wrong about this. They think the answer is to do less, to cut everything out, to simplify, to reject ambition or achievement or effort. But that's not it. You don't feel like you're wasting your life because you're doing too much. You feel that way because what you're doing doesn't connect to anything that matters to you. And the fix isn't less activity, it's more intentional activity. It's doing fewer things that drain you and more things that build something you actually care about. It's being willing to disappoint people if it means protecting time for what aligns with your values. It's treating your calendar like it's finite, because it is, and being ruthless about what gets access to it. That doesn't mean you quit your job or abandon your responsibilities or burn your life down. It means you stop pretending that being busy is the same as being purposeful. It means you stop filling every gap with activity just to avoid sitting with the question of what you're actually building. It means you get clear on what matters and then let that clarity guide your decisions, even when it's uncomfortable. Because staying busy is comfortable. It's safe. It's socially acceptable. It lets you avoid big questions and hard choices. But comfort isn't the same as fulfillment. And at some point, you have to decide, do you want a life that looks productive or one that feels meaningful? Because those aren't always the same thing. And choosing the second one requires letting go of the first one as your default. So what do? The honest answer? You have to stop. Not forever, not dramatically, just long enough to ask a question you've been avoiding. What do I actually want my life to be about? Not what you're supposed to want, not what would impress people, not what sounds good in theory. What do you specifically care about enough to organize your life around? And I know that sounds simple, maybe even obvious, but most people can't answer it. Not because they're stupid or lost, but because they've never created the conditions to figure it out. They've been so busy doing what's next that they've never stopped to ask if next is even pointing in a direction they care about. And figuring that out takes time, quiet, space to think without the pressure of a deadline or someone else's expectations sitting on top of you. It takes sitting with uncertainty, with the discomfort of not knowing, with the possibility that the life you're building might not be the one you actually want. That's hard, which is why most people don't do it. They'd rather stay busy, rather keep their heads down, rather keep moving and hope that eventually, somewhere down the line, it'll all make sense. But it doesn't work that way. Meaning doesn't emerge from accumulation, from doing enough stuff that eventually it adds up to something coherent. It comes from intention, from deciding what matters, and then arranging your life around that. And you can't do that while you're running. You have to stop, create space, let yourself be still long enough to hear what you actually want underneath all the noise of what you think you should want. And once you hear it, once you get even a flicker of clarity, everything starts to look different. The things that felt important start to look optional. The commitments that seemed non-negotiable start to look like choices you made without realizing you had a choice. And slowly you start making different decisions. Not all at once, not in some dramatic life overhaul, just small shifts, saying no to one thing that doesn't align, making room for one thing that does, letting your calendar start to reflect what you actually care about instead of just what's urgent. And that's when the feeling starts to shift. Not because you're suddenly doing less, but because what you're doing starts to matter. You feel like you're wasting your life even when you're busy, because busyness was never the point. The point is meaning, direction, building something that reflects who you are and what you care about. And you can't do that if every minute of your life is already spoken for. You can't do that if you're so focused on what's next that you never stop to ask if next is even the right direction. So stop, not forever, just long enough to ask the question, what do I actually want this life to be about? And then let the answer scare you a little, because if it doesn't scare you, it's probably not true. It's probably just another version of what you think you're supposed to want. The real answer, the honest one, usually requires change. It requires letting go of things you've been holding on to. It requires disappointing people. It requires admitting that maybe you've been moving in the wrong direction. And that's uncomfortable. But the alternative is worse. The alternative is spending the next 10 years just as busy as you are now, checking off tasks that don't matter, building a life that looks impressive but feels empty. And at the end of it, realizing you had the chance to change course and didn't because you were too busy. That's the real waste. Not resting, not slowing down, not creating space to think, but spending your finite life on things that don't align with what you actually care about just because you couldn't stop long enough to notice. So, stop, ask the question, and then start building a life that answers it.